Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another one of our 7-star raid Terra builds. As of late last night, the Pokemon Company announced the next 7-star raid, and that is going to be, as you can see on the screen here, a Psychic Terra type Meganium. Definitely a bit interesting. I wouldn't have expected Meganium to be Psychic type. I guess that the leaf around its, or the flower around its neck kind of resembles the Psychic logo now that I'm looking at the little infographic up on the screen now. So I guess, now I kind of get it. But yeah, let's get right into discussing the 7-star Terra raid. Of course, Meganium's original typing is just pure grass type. It doesn't have any secondary types. And its Terra type, of course, as I mentioned previously, is going to be the Psychic type. This does change up some of its weaknesses. It keeps one of them, as you can see at the bottom right there. But we'll get to that pretty soon. Meganium's definitely an interesting Pokemon. Its two abilities are Overgrow and Leaf Guard. Neither of them are great, but out of the two, I think in a Terra raid, Leaf Guard will be better. Leaf Guard makes it so that whenever there's sun up, Meganium cannot be statused. And because of that, and a few of its other moves, I definitely think this Meganium is going to be sun-based. And of course, it loses its fire weakness when it becomes that Psychic Terra type, which it of course will be throughout the raid. So it can kind of afford to put up the sun without taking ridiculous damage from those fire type moves. So I definitely expect to see this thing running Sunny Day up there. And then, of course, with Sunny Day, any grass type carries Solar Beam. It'll be an 120 base power grass type move that with 100% accuracy. And when Sunny Day is up, it doesn't even take a turn to charge. So it'll just be doing ridiculous damage. It's also worth mentioning that Meganium has a pretty equal attack and special attack stat. I think they differ by like 1 or 2 points. So this thing could definitely run a mixed set or either physical or special. Personally, I think it's going to run mixed. It has a lot of great moves of both categories, so I definitely could see it running a mixed set. And to pair with that, of course, I definitely see it running Zen Headbutt. This is its only Psychic type move other than Terra Blast, which it might run. So I definitely see it running this. Of course, Zen Headbutt also has that flinch chance tacked on it, which could be a little annoying, but we'll work around that later. Of course, I also see Petal Blizzard on there. I think Solar Beam is probably the better option, but if they do end up going full physical, Petal Blizzard might be on there to cover that physical grass type stab. Of course, they've done that a few times where it's 2 moves. I think Charizard had Overheat and Flamethrower, so I could see them doing something similar. I also definitely think this Meganium is going to run both Reflect and Light Screen. That's, of course, 2 more Psychic moves. Meganium is very well known for having these moves. It's a pretty defensive Pokemon, and Reflect and Light Screen makes it incredibly more bulky. I also could see it running Weather Ball, because with that sun up, it's going to be a fire type move, which can take care of a few of its weaknesses, or I guess just one, but a few of the sets I've made. Of course, that does become fire. You got to keep that in mind while you're building your Pokemon. If the sun does go away, though, for whatever reason, that stops being a fire type move, and that's definitely good to consider. And you'll see that in a few of our sets we built. I also can see it running Earthquake. Of course, that is a physical move, but again, Meganium kind of can be a mixed attacker. Earthquake being a ground type move that can hit a lot of Pokemon that it wouldn't be able to do well against otherwise. I also could see it running Terra Blast for a little bit of extra psychic damage, especially if it is a not a mixed attacker and is instead a special attacker. Ingrain can definitely make kind of a pain to deal with. That residual healing can definitely build up over time. It also knows Curse, which of course lowers its speed, which it doesn't really care about in the first place, but increases its attack and defense, which would pair very well with that Body Press, that last move I tacked on there. That could be a very fun set that they could throw on this thing, but honestly, I don't really see that happening. But I thought I'd throw it up there just in case. There are definitely some moves to note. Of course, as the Psychic Terra type, Meganium is going to be weak to Ghost, Dark, and Bug. So a lot of our sets consider that, and it's going to be from April 5th to April 7th, and then once again from April 12th to April 14th. So with that being said, let's get right into the sets we built to deal with this Pokemon. I've got quite a few here. I've got the sets pulled up that I created on Pokemon Showdown for specific EV and IV spreads, and at the time of filming this, it is currently April 1st, so I get to look at the fun Pokemon Showdown April Fool's sprites. It's going to make this a little bit more interesting. But of course, our first set here is going to be the Roaring Moon. Which one is okay, I found the Roaring Moon sprite. Roaring Moon, of course, being a Dragon Dark type Pokemon, it's going to be the Terra type Dark, and you're going to want to give it the Assault Vest to give it a little bit of extra staying power in the battle. When it comes to moves, you're going to run all damage dealing moves that Assault Vest does take effect. You're going to run Snarl, Brick Break, Breaking Swipe, and Crunch. Snarl and Breaking Swipe, that's it, are good for making sure Meganium can't deal a whole lot of damage. Of course, Snarl lowers the special attack, and Breaking Swipe lowers the attack stat of the opponent Pokemon. So even if this thing is mixed, you can still run both these moves and get some good output from it. Brick Break, of course, is there to break those shields that it puts up. If it ever puts up a Light Screen or Reflect, you can use Brick Break and get rid of them completely, which will help not only you, but your team. Photosynthesis, of course, is Roaring Moon's only ability, and its main damage-dealing move is going to be that Crunch there. When it comes to EVs, you're going to want to max out HP and attack and put a last little bit into defense, I believe I did. You're going to run a plus attack minus special attack nature, which I believe is adamant. And when it comes to IVs, everything matters, even special attack technically, because Snarl is a special move, so you're going to be dealing a little bit of extra damage with that. But realistically, if your special attack isn't perfect, it's not going to be much of a big deal anyway. Your Snarl's not going to be doing a whole lot of damage in the first place, even though it is super effective, just because, Roaring Moon has a much higher attack stat, as you can see there. So you're really just running Snarl for that little drop to the Meganium special attack in case it is using that stat. Moving on to our next Pokemon, we of course have Incineroar. Incineroar being a great counter for this Pokemon. It has a lot of good moves against this. You're going to want to, of course, Incineroar is Fire Dark type, but what's interesting is you're actually going to run Bug Terror type, in my personal opinion. This thing's also going to be carrying the Assault Vest for a little bit of extra staying power. And you're going to run Darkest Lariat as its main damage dealing move before Terra. But once you Terrastallize, you get that Bug type stab, and that Leech Life is going to be doing a lot of damage and healing you, which is very useful. Brick Break and Snarl are, of course, on this Pokemon to do the same thing that Roaring Moon can do, which is, of course, Break, Light Screen, and Reflect, and lower Meganium special attack if necessary. Incineroar's ability, Intimidate, will definitely help out if Meganium is mixed or a physical attacker. It'll lower its attack stat not only when you send out Incineroar, but every single time your Incineroar faints and you send it back out, it'll lower it again. When it comes to EVs, this one's a little more complicated. You're going to max out HP. I put 156 points into attack, 80 into defense, and 20 into special defense. That gives this Incineroar a pretty well-rounded defense stat, while it's also able to do quite a bit of damage, so it should be able to stay against that Meganium, even if it's running Earthquake. Of course, everything matters, once again, when it comes to IVs. Special attack, less so, but if you want that Snarl to be doing the maximum amount of damage, you definitely need to have it maxed out. But again, realistically, that doesn't matter a whole lot. If you want to get specific, it does, but, it's whatever. This is going to be an adamant Incineroar, of course. And moving on to our next Pokemon, it's a bit of a reoccurring Pokemon in these Terra Raid builds. We got Hisuian Goodra here. Hisuian Goodra is the Steel and Dragon type, and you're going to want to Terra Grass on this. And I couldn't really find a great held item for it, so I think Air Balloon's a pretty good option. It'll let you dodge that Earthquake the first few times it's thrown out. When we get right on over to its moves, you'll see that we're running a very, very support-heavy set with this Hisuian Goodra. Acid Spray, of course, being a great support move in Terra Raids, lowering the opponent's special defense by 2 and giving you a charge for your Terra Orb. Skitter Smack is this Pokemon's main damage dealing move, although that's not really the whole point of Hisuian Goodra. Skitter Smack, I believe, lowers the special attack stat, and also charges your Terra. So it's similar to Acid Spray in that sense, but lowering the special attack stat will definitely be useful for your team. Rain Dance, of course, just in case you notice your team is weak to that Fire Weather Ball or anything else that Meganium is doing and you need to get rid of the sun, you can press that Rain Dance, and then Chilling Water to lower the attack stat if Meganium has started to throw out some damage dealing physical moves. Sap Sipper, of course, is going to be Hisuian Goodra's ability to make sure it can't take any damage from those grass moves, and instead it boosts its attack stats so that your Skitter Smack will start doing slightly more damage. When it comes to EVs, you're going to max out HP. You're going to want to put 184 points in defense and 72 into special defense. When it comes to its nature, you want a plus defense minus special attack nature. To make sure this Pokemon can stick around a little more. Its special attack doesn't matter a whole lot because Acid Spray isn't really what you're doing damage with. In fact, Acid Spray is resisted by this Meganium. You're just using it to make sure your team can deal a little bit of extra damage. Moving on to our next Pokemon, we got Forretress here, a very, very support-focused Pokemon in this Terra Raid. It's Bug Steel type normally, and you're going to run Terra type Bug, and you'll notice it's holding a Light Clay. And if you see that, you can probably guess that 2 of its moves are going to be Light Screen or Reflect. Light Clay, of course, makes Light Screen and Reflect last considerably longer. That's going to be very useful in this Meganium battle. Rain Dance is another good move to have, of course, to get rid of that sunny day, just in case your team's taken some big damage from it, or you just want to get rid of it for whatever reason. Lunge, of course, is a damage-dealing bug-type move that lowers the target's attack stat. It's similar to Skitter Smack, that I noticed. So you're going to want to be using this in case that Meganium is going for some damage-dealing physical moves. Of course, it is your only damage-dealing move anyway, so you're going to be using that to get to Terra. Realistically, it might not be great to Terra Fortress, especially if you can get rid of the sun. So I would kind of recommend against doing that, but if it comes down to it, you need to dish out some damage. It's an alright thing to do. Overcoat, of course, is going to be its ability of choice. None of Fortress's abilities are really great in this battle, but Overcoat, I guess, could be the best, because Meganium does know Poison Powder, and I think 1 or 2 other Powder or Spore moves. So realistically, if it is running it for whatever reason, you can get rid of that. Sturdy probably also works on Fortress. It might, in some instances, be better. But personally, I think I'm going to run Overcoat. When it comes to EVs, you're going to max out HP, max out special defense, and put a little bit into defense. You'll see there, defense is already so high that you don't really need to invest in it, and it's still its best stat, so you really want to invest in special defense. And when it comes to its nature, you're going to want a minus special attack and a plus special defense nature. Fortress is, of course, going to be a pretty safe Pokemon for support. You're going to be pressing those cheers a lot with this Pokemon to make sure your team is boosted up. It's not really meant to deal damage. You're kind of meant to be a brick wall for Meganium to fight against while you set up screens, throw up those rain dances, lower its attack, or cheer for your team. All right, and moving on to another Pokemon we've got for this, another Bug Steel type. We got Scizor here. Terra-type Bug on Scizor, of course, and its Hell type is going to be the Shell Bell. When we get to its moves, we've got Fury Cutter here, which is a personal favorite of mine. You might run on X Scissor, but honestly, I very much like Fury Cutter. And then Light Screen, of course, Scizor, we're getting Light Screen is huge, so you're definitely going to run that. And Rain Dance for the same reason that all the other Pokemon have to get rid of that Sunny Day, especially because it's 4 times super effective against Scizor. Brick Break, of course, to get rid of screens in case they set it up. And you're going to want the ability to be Swarm. Normally Fury Cutter does get a Technician boost, but only for like the first 1 or 2 uses, because Fury Cutter, again, every time you use it in succession, boosts its base power. So realistically, you want Swarm, because that'll have a permanent effect if your Scizor is at low health, as opposed to Technician, which will only have it activate the first 1 or 2 times you use Fury Cutter. When it comes to EVs, you're going to want to max out HP and attack, and put the last 4 points into special defense. When it comes to IVs, everything matters except special defense. I forgot to mention that. That's the same for Fortress. And then IVs, everything matters for Gudra, technically. But again, everything matters except special attack for Scizor here. And you're going to want, I think I already said, you're going to want a plus attack minus special attack nature. Scizor is definitely going to be a good damage dealer if you can get rid of that Fire Weather Ball in case Meganium has it. And I could definitely see it working very well alongside like the Gudra or the Fortress, honestly. Once you can get rid of that Sun, Scizor can do very, very good against this Meganium. Now moving on to our last Pokemon that I think is going to be probably one of, if not the absolute best for this Terra Raid build. It's pretty easily accessible too. We got Volcarona here. Volcarona, of course, being the Bug Fire type with the Terra type of Bug. You're going to want to give this thing a Shell Bell. When we get over to its moves, you're going to notice Quiver Dance. That is the Volcarona staple. That is a great boosting move. It boosts your special defense, speed, and special attack by a stage. You've, of course, got Struggle Bug as well, which lowers the opponent's special attack stat, but also charges your kill orb slightly. Volcarona's main damage dealing move against this Meganium is going to be that Bug Buzz, which has a small chance to lower, I think it's special defense too, which will be very, very nice if you can get that to proc. But again, you don't necessarily need it, especially if your team's supporting you. You've got Light Screen on there in case no one else in your team's able to use it, and you want Swarm as the ability, because none of Volcarona's other ones really matter that much. When it comes to EVs, you're going to max out HP, put 28 points into defense, 116 in the special attack, and 112 in the special defense. This will make sure Volcarona can deal a lot of damage while also taking quite a few hits, and you're going to want Swarm with his abilities, I believe I mentioned before. When it comes to natures, you're going to want an up special attack minus attack nature, which I believe is modest, and of course, everything matters except physical attack. You don't care about physical attack when it comes to IVs. But I think this is it. So I'm going to call this episode here. Thank you guys so much for watching this Terra Raid build video. Meganium jumps into raids pretty soon, so hopefully one of these sets piqued your interest and you're excited to use one of these Pokemons against the Meganium. All should work pretty well, some better than others, but one of them should definitely be able to get you through it, especially with a good team behind you. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Let me know in the comments if one of these sets helped you out and let you get your 7-star Unrivaled Meganium. I'm definitely looking forward to those raids, and I hope to see you guys out there. Have a good day.